You're with Julian on the Brown Notes, and Albanese grows a spine. And after the debacle of The Voice last year, that failed referendum that could have taken him down and actually seemed to do about as much damage to Peter Dutton as it did to him, he has ripped into the new year fighting fire with fire by abandoning the stage 3 tax cuts, or at least reshaping them, actually doing something even better than abandoning them, making it not for the people it was for, which I think is even more cool. This is a really clever move from Albanese, because winding back tax cuts for people on over $180,000 or $200,000 a year and giving them to people on less than $150,000 a year is not going to find that many enemies outside of the Australian news media. In fact, the Murdoch press has been largely silent on the issue, well, as much as they can be, because virtually all of their readers support Albanese. It's fascinating to watch these goons on Sky at night from the Murdoch press trying to attack Albanese over this, when their own viewers support Albanese. It's beautiful. It's telling who is coming out and making as much noise about it as possible, and that's the Sydney Morning Herald, who just had a new appointed Murdoch press editor for 9 newspapers. Just like the ABC has an ex-Murdoch alumni, who it remains to be seen how much of a Murdoch alumni, as their new chairman. Very interesting, all of that. Now, Labor can do one thing they said they wouldn't do in office, and that will be the whole next 3 years accusing Labor of being liars. Remember the carbon tax? Remember how that was hammered every day in our newspapers about how Julia had told a lie? How many lies did Tony Abbott or Scott Morrison tell on the election campaign, and then came in and did a load of other things? They never get called liars if they're in Labor. It's accepted that they're going to lie about everything. You know, we can go all the way back to no cuts to the SBS and ABC and all of these other things that Abbott lied about, but they never ever call them liars. But will be trying to call Albo a liar for this. But the problem they've got, you know, this is why nothing gets done in Australia, because Waleed Ali is just a joke. The presenter from The Project is a joke of a man. He said that Labor has no right to do this because they're liars, nothing's changed. Mate, have you witnessed the cost of living crisis and the multiple interest rate rises that have happened since that promise was first made? Are you insane? He's just such a lackey. Why hasn't he got a job on the Murdoch press yet? Like, to say that politicians aren't allowed to react to a completely different landscape, that's why nothing happens in this country. They say, well, you said this at the start. If you're Labor, not if you're Liberal, you can do whatever you want. But if they're Labor and you said something 3 years ago or 2 years ago, then they're held up to that standard, even if the entire political landscape and economic landscape is different. I'd rather politicians that did what was right. And for the last couple of years, everyone's been the same people in the media have been hammering Albanese to drop the stage 3 tax cuts because they're not. There's no justification for them. And the same newspapers now attacking him for doing so. So all he's done is he's kept the stage 3 tax cuts, but he's instead of it benefiting people on 180 or 200k a year, he's cut back their benefits and given them all to the people on under 150k a year, which is surprisingly most of Australia. So everyone loves it. He's finally appealing to the Labor vote. This was a horrible policy to have in the wake of the Voice referendum, to have once again a Labor Party clinging to a policy that only is supported by a very small group of Liberal voters. That would have been a really serious problem for Albanese, I think, going through this year. But he's come out swinging. And I'm really happy he has. The timing is absolutely superb. It's likely interest rates are going to start going down this year. It's likely the economic paradigm and good news for Labor will change. And who are Labor lying to? They're not lying to me, because I've been screaming at them to drop the stage 3 tax cuts the whole time. They're only lying to a small group of Liberal voters. I don't mind Labor lying to a small group of Liberal voters. I want them to tell the truth to me. I asked them to not ever do this. I'm a Labour voter. Why do things that the other side, who are never going to vote for you, support? So good on you, and it's great to see Dutton being wrong-footed by this, by trying to call for an election. It's never going to work in his favour. I think Labour have already got a bounce in the polls over this. Dutton's dead this year. Dutton's got nothing. The only reason that Dutton grew to parity was because we've been in the middle of a cost of living crisis with about 10 interest rate rises since Labour have been in power. But they're going to start going back. And with the voice in the rearview mirror, Dutton doesn't have anything. So good on you, Anthony Albanese, for showing a spine, and I hope you fight, because I saw you dealing with some joker from the Murdoch press on an interview over Christmas, where he was trying to pin you down over the Israel-Palestine conflict. And you actually went to town on him. And I was really worried that you were going to be too ineffectual once you were in the chair, but you actually gave him so much stick. I was like, yes. So good on you, Anthony.